I can also say that pleasingly, which is why we have the Treasurer and the Minister for Health here, whilst we are concerned with the emerging clusters, we do feel confident enough that from Friday outdoor venues will be allowed to have 2 square metres outside in preparation for summer, so long as there is an electronic QR code. So if your business has an electronic QR code, whether it's your own business QR code or whether it's a Service New South Wales one, you will be able to adopt 2 square metres outside. That means have more people attend your outdoor venue. Indoors still remains at 4 square metres, but outdoors remains at will now be 2 square metres from this Friday, and the Treasurer will outline what this means for the economy. Also pleasingly, as the Minister for Health will outline, we know now that how much the arts and the music industry has been impacted. So now musical performances will have up to 500 people out at outdoor venues, so long as they are seated and respect the 4 square metre rule. Minister Hazzard will outline that. I will now ask Dr Chant to provide her update, then the Treasurer, then Minister for Health, and then obviously we'll take any questions.
Thank you, Premier. So there were 6 cases of overseas acquired that were now in hotel quarantine, and 7 were locally acquired. 2 of the new locally acquired cases were publicly announced on Monday the 12th of October and were doctors that worked in the A to Z medical clinic and are linked to previously reported cases of an unknown source. There were another 5 new locally acquired cases which were members of the same household in southwestern Sydney, and they have now been identified as part of the ongoing investigation into the 4 previously reported unlinked cases, including the nurse from St Vincent's. New South Wales Health can advise that one of these new cases is a disability worker who has worked at 3 small group homes in southwestern Sydney. Contact tracing and urgent testing is underway, but we have no evidence of illness at the moment amongst staff and or the residents, but we will keep you updated as that activity continues. And there was one other new case that was linked to the Great Beginnings Oran Park Childcare Centre on the 1st, 2nd, 8th and 9th, whilst infectious, and the centre's closed today and contact tracing is underway. The key messages I'd like to get across to the community at this moment is that we need to get the community to come forward for testing. There is a pop-up clinic at Lakemba. It has been open over the weekend and it will continue to be open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's at the site of the Lakemba Uniting Church at the corner of Haldon Street and the Boulevard Lakemba. There's also extended hours for the Roselands drive-through if that is more convenient. There is also being established a pop-up clinic in Oran Park Community Health Centre. There is good parking and you can also access testing at Camden Hospital. That Oran Park Community Centre clinic has been established at 1 p.m. today and will go through to 6:30 p.m. and depending on the demand, that those service operational hours can be amended. So I think that this is a salient lesson for us around how the disease can transmit and how important it is that as we ease restrictions, everyone has a role to play, and I would urge the community to continue to come forward for testing. As you can see, that those individuals that came forward for testing have allowed us to trace back and identify many, many cases and prevent those ongoing routes of transmission in the community. And this is going to be essential. So thank you very much to all of those people that we've contacted who have presented for testing promptly on public health advice, who are remaining in isolation and adhering to the advice we're providing them. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry, and it's a tribute to Kerry and her team that we're able to now make some further announcements in relation to the lifting of restrictions for businesses across New South Wales. We know particularly in our state, during this pandemic, some of the hardest hit industries have been arts and recreation and hospitality. We've seen a reduction in employment between March and September in hospitality of around 14%, in arts and recreation around 11%. So as we head into summer, we want to take New South Wales from being inside to outside, and as part of that, these restrictions today to move to a 2 square metre rule for businesses outside their premises, up to 500 seated at outdoor events and music events and James, I know your father's in the press release, so you better give it a good run, supporting the government's decision today. Importantly, we're also, as part of this, and I think where the business have been very successful, which has enabled us to open up more of the economy across our state, has been through their COVID-safe plans. And crucial to that has been the use of QR codes. So as part of this announcement today, what we're asking businesses to do is to implement a QR code system, to go to a 2 square metre rule, and you can use the Service New South Wales app. Victor Dominello, that's obviously his preference, but also we know that many businesses across the state have adopted QR codes as well to push out information and in relation to their business going forward. So this is a step in the right direction, and it's happened in consultation with the business community. We want to do more, and we can do more as we maintain this strong health response here in New South Wales. There's a number of initiatives that have come through our summer summit here, which we'll continue to implement, and we'll continue to work with businesses right across our state to ensure that as we head into March next year, we're able to transfer as many people from the JobKeeper program into paid wages.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Well, on a perfect spring day, you've got to say how good is it that we'll be able to have the 1 person per 2 square metre rule applying to all of our restaurants and our pubs and our clubs, and it will just make a huge difference to the economy, but it will make a huge difference to the ambience of Sydney and indeed New South Wales. Off the back of that, as the Treasurer just said, we've worked extensively with Dr. Chan's team, and most importantly, we've worked with all of the people who represent musical and choral groups, theatrical groups across the state, and Stephen O'Doherty, who is the facilitator of the Roundtable of Vocal, Instrumental and Music Education Organisations, has actually worked with us to represent everybody from the Australia Association of New South Wales Regional Conservatoriums right through to the Sydney Conservatorium of Music, pipe bands, schools, you name it, we've worked with them. And as a result, we are now able to facilitate opening up the outdoors, to bringing back the life from music. How fantastic is it that we can now have, similar to what we've had with sport in the last few weeks, up to 500 people outside enjoying their music, playing instruments, singing, but also, of course, it's critical, and I just say this as a reminder to each of them, that there must be an organiser of these events, and that organiser will have to make sure that there's a COVID-safe plan. We do that in every other way, and it's working really well. And we expect that with a COVID-safe plan, we'll be able to have up to 500 people really enjoying the outdoors. Now, they may be the people who are actually performing, they may be the audience, they may be all of us just sitting in a park. We could find ourselves in Hyde Park with a couple of bands, singers. It's going to make such a difference to the life of New South Wales to be able to do this, and I'm very, very pleased. We're obviously looking at further changes, as the Treasurer said, both in the economic side, but just bringing life back to New South Wales. It's sorry, Andrew, I haven't actually quite finished, but thanks for your enthusiasm. And you're not singing, I'm doing the talking at the moment. So what we're actually doing here is making sure that we bring back life to New South Wales, and I would certainly say to the community and to others who want to see more that there will be more done, but it must be done in a COVID-safe way. And as the Premier said earlier, and as Dr. Chan said, we have got 7 new cases. It's a timely reminder that we actually will be conscious of the fact that everything still has to be done in a COVID-safe way. But the way forward is actually very positive.